Well, we've arrived at episode 5. And that rhymed. That was unintentional. This is a rewatch of episode 5 of the Wheel of Time TV show. So, obviously, there are going to be spoilers for the entire first season of the Wheel of Time. But I think I've gone through my notes, and I don't think that there are any actual significant book spoilers in this one. Like, beyond things that are revealed in the show, I mean. There is one sort of vague world-buildy things, and some references to New Spring, but no real spoilers for New Spring. So I don't think it's enough to give a spoiler warning. So hey, if you are just a TV show watcher, I don't think I have to tell you to go away this time. So yay! Let's go.
Let's be nerdy, bitch. Let's be nerdy, let's be nerdy. Let's be nerdy, bitch. Let's be nerdy, bitch. Let's be nerdy, let's be nerdy, bitch.
I'm going to begin with something that I haven't done in my other rewatch videos, and that's sort of to re-review the episode, because this one, for those of you who may have watched, my breakdowns and reviews when the show was still airing, I was not a massive fan of this episode. So I was really curious to see how I'd feel about it with some distance from, the original airing. I do have to say, I was right. In an earlier video, I'm pretty sure I said that I thought that I would like this episode more in context, knowing the entire season. It does feel better when I know the entire arc of the season, but that having been said, this episode still doesn't quite do it for me. I know what they were trying to do, and I think this is one episode where my being a book reader kind of hurt my viewing experience. Because of my knowledge of the books, even before they showed up on screen, I was prepared for Stepan and Karini to die. I wasn't attached to them, and I couldn't help but feel frustrated that we were spending so much time with Stepan in this episode when I'd much rather have watched literally anyone else. It's not a knock on his character or the acting or the writing. It's my book knowledge that just kept me from caring about him. And I think this episode, more than any of the others, feels to me like it was more targeted at non-readers. It is there to establish and explain the Warder bond, something that in the books we get sort of slowly revealed to us over time. And from what I've seen in reaction videos from non-book readers, I think this episode succeeds at what it was trying to do. I do have to say, just to be as upfront as possible, I know plenty of book readers who love this episode. So I'm not saying that my opinion is that of all book readers. God, I wish I didn't have to do this, but the internet is a weird place. People do seem to think that if you say something, you believe you're speaking for everybody. I do not. I am only speaking for myself. Please, ever, always in my videos, unless I say that I'm talking about somebody else or an opinion that I've read, it's my opinion. That's all this is. But anyway, okay, all of that having been said, I don't think that this episode was made with people like me in mind, and I think that it was largely successful at what it aimed for. And I think that it is better when seen in the full context of the season. Plus, I do have to say, even with the frustration I feel watching it of just, come on, I want to go back to Lan or Valda or Leandrin, even with that frustration that I felt, there are plenty of seeds in this episode that really, really do land with me. So, with that out of the way, let's go through my notes. The music that starts this episode is so haunting. The behind the scenes, or I think it's called the X-ray content on Amazon for this episode is really, really interesting. This type of music that they're doing, I'm not going to play because I will probably get demonetized. It's apparently called culning or coolning. And according to Rafe in the X-ray content, it's the loudest sound that a human can make, and apparently can only be made by women. I don't know why, but that was intentional. He intended to bookend this episode beginning with a uniquely female sound and then end it with a uniquely male sound. And it does. The singing at the end is Mongolian throat singing, which I do believe can only be done by men. So that was really cool. This cooling, by the way, is meant for herding cattle in Sweden. I hope I have the right country. I don't know. Google it. I listened to several different cooling videos. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Did anyone catch the angle of Karini's arm when Stepan was carrying her here? That is a brutal... And then look at Leandrin's face here. Is that a bruise? Like, Logain did bash her against the wall, so maybe, which then begs the question, is no one around who can heal her? Was Karini the only healer? No. Actually, no, we know that she's not, because in the last episode we saw some battlefield healing, so did she just choose to not be healed? Or is it dirt? Is it dirt as like some part of a mourning ritual? Only on one cheek, though. We do get a braid tug here, but not really. Like, that's not a braid tug. That's a braid caress. She is reassuring herself by touching her braid, like she told Egwene to do in the first episode. After the opening credits, we get this chyron that says 1 month later. Okay, I don't work in TV or anything. Like, I am in no way in touch with the industry, but this feels like a studio note to me. Like, the dialogue that happens here reveals that they have been traveling for a while. And then in the next scene between Rand and Matt says something about them having been on the road for a month. The dialogue, there's the writing shows that they have been traveling for a month. But this chyron makes it feel like they didn't trust us to pay attention. I'm not a fan of the chyron. Thank you to commenters, because I asked a question in one of my breakdown videos about this backward boots, and the comments told me the answer. This is a military tradition. When a general, I think, dies in battle, their boots are put on their horse backwards like this, so that they are, having their last ride, looking out, watching over their troops during their last ride. It's a very touching tradition. And okay, when we get to Tar Valon, what is the first thing we see Rand do in the city? Take candy from a stranger. Where are his street smarts? Now, we see Fane here. Actually, we get a couple of shots of him. And I know that some non-book readers caught him, but, I mean, this is just what's in my notes here. I would love to know what the ratio is. There's no way to know. We can't poll all the viewers or whatever, but I would love to know the amount of people who caught him versus people who didn't. Because I know that my friends who were not book readers who watched the show didn't catch it at all. Like, none of them did. One of my friends who has started reading the books caught one sight of him. And I know, but in the reaction videos of non-book readers, I know some of them caught it. So I don't know. There's no way to find this out, but I'm very curious about it. Okay, I know I talked about this before, but I gotta call it out again. This scene between Nynaeve and Moraine, it's fantastic. When, the first time I watched this and they arrived in Tar Valon, I was initially kind of a little sad, actually, because I thought that it would mean that I would lose one of my favorite scenes, like a favorite Nynaeve moment. A moment that I think, to me, is central in understanding her character and her personality early on. It's that scene where Moraine reveals to Nynaeve that she can channel. This scene, while obviously not the same, to me, it serves the exact same purpose. It is a conversation between them that absolutely needed to happen, but almost also feels, I don't know, it's almost designed to make Nynaeve feel small and vulnerable and exposed in front of Moraine. It's the scene that, like, this is she had issues with Moraine before. This is the thing that cements it. Moraine does something that needed to be done. No fault to Moraine. What she does here, she's actually being really, really kind, but there's no way that can't be read that way from Nynaeve's perspective. She just was, emotionally stripped naked in front of somebody who she's intimidated by, and she feels exposed. Plus, both Rosamund Pike and Zoe Robbins just slay in the acting department in this scene. It's all good. Valda, awful guy, but he has excellent eyesight and an excellent memory. He sees two people at a distance, and he recognizes them from an encounter that lasted maybe 4 or 5 minutes, when he didn't even talk to them over a month prior to this. That's kind of impressive, actually. This moment here, where Perrin and Egwene get caught like a minute after the Tuathon stage their passive resistance. I can't help but wonder if this is going to come back to Perrin later. Because, as noble and as brave as the Tuathon are, in this instance, they are incredibly ineffective. Like, is this going to be the way of the leaf doesn't work moment that, comes up in his memory later on? But okay, as they run away, there are these cool faces in the rock that I caught for the first time this viewing. And I think these are real. Like, I mean, I don't think that they were created for the show, because I do seem to remember some talk of like a location that was similar to this, or something about faces in the rock as a filming location before the show came out. But regardless, whether or not it's made for the show or it's an actual location, I really like it. It hints at like a long past, a lot of history, and I love details like this. Here in the library of the inn, we see Rand looking at a book, and he reads the title. Like, he says, the Koreathon cycle, and he says it out loud. This is the second time in this episode that he says something out loud that feels unnatural to me. The first one is earlier on when he says that he thinks he's seen Dragon Mount before. It's not what he says that feels unnatural. It's the fact that he says it out loud. Now, I'm not a writer, so I don't really know how else they could have gotten this information to us as viewers, but it just, something about it, it feels, what's the word? Ham-fisted to me. And here we have Loyal. Now, okay, I first have to say that Hamad Animashan, he is perfect as Loyal. His voice, his mannerisms, his pace, it is all spot on. But I'm not sold on the makeup effects here. He somehow, to me, he looks both not weird enough and at the same time too weird. I don't know how that's possible. I really don't, but it is. That's what it is to me. Now, this moment is really, really interesting to me. Rand looks at a copy of The Travels of Jane Farstrider and says that Egwene thought that she was Jane herself reborn. He says Jane herself. I double-checked it with the subtitles. Was Jane a woman in this turning? Or is it that Egwene thinks that she, a woman, is a reincarnation of a male Jane Farstrider? Both, to me, I have to say, are fine. I'm just curious. It's interesting because the second possibility changes the lore of the world more, even though it would be less of a cosmetic change, because it would mean a confirmation of some changes about the way souls work in this world, which, again, totally fine by me. I just want to know, was Jane a woman in this turning? When Logain is being paraded through the streets and people are yelling and throwing things at him, I noticed this time around that one of the people are yelling, kill the false dragon, kill the false dragon. One person yells, kill the dragon, not kill the false dragon. And this read is so true to me. Like, people go from being against something legitimately dangerous, and then they generalize their hatred and their anger to things that they shouldn't, and I don't know. It just was it was too sadly accurate to me. I was just like, oh, that's people. That's what we do. That sucks. And maybe at some point I will stop pointing this out, but today is not that day. Rand and Matt, very dirty here. Very, very dirty. Look at this beautiful view of Tar Valon. This is gorgeous, absolutely perfect design, and I'm kidding. I mean, I'm not, actually. It really is gorgeous. It is lovely design, but also, where the are the guardrails? This is a tower! It's literally a tower. It's the White Tower. You are very, very high. This is not safe. The floors look like they would be slippery when wet, which it's open, so if it rains, the water's just coming in. It makes me nervous. Rails, safety, please. Safety, people. Moiraine's room. Thinking ahead to the next episode when we see Swan's room, just look at how stark her room is. This is not her home. But in this room, we have this utterly silent scene between Maureen and Lan, and I love it. I love this scene so much. It is, I would have watched this for like a full 2 minutes. Just like, oh yeah, I want to watch this. It's so good. They are so good. But the scene I love is followed by a scene that I hate, the scrubbing scene. And when I say that I hate it, I don't mean that it's badly done. I think what I'm feeling when I watch it is what I'm supposed to feel. It makes me profoundly, profoundly uncomfortable. So let's move on to Valda. Yay, Valda! He's eating with a knife. Like, he cuts the meat, and then he stabs it with a knife, and then he uses the knife to bring it to his mouth? Like, what? He eats off the point of the knife. This is weird. Okay, speaking of weird and Volda, I still kind of have an issue with how or why he thinks that Egwene can channel. Like, I read all the theories and explanations in the comments that people have. Most of them boil down to him just A, being an ass, or him thinking that seeing them a second time is a sign of something. And I mean, I guess? But, like, you can probably tell from the tone of my voice that that's an unsatisfying explanation to me. There's nothing here to me for him to make this leap in logic that is enough for me to go, oh, okay. It stretches credulity. I don't know where I saw this. Maybe in the comments or maybe in my Discord. I honestly don't know. But apparently, pouring wine on the knife makes the cuts on Perrin's back hurt more. Because I think it's the sugar in the wine, which, that tracks. Because Valda definitely feels like a sadist to me. Once again, the gendered way that Valda talks here jumped out at me. He is going to stamp out channeling. I think he says woman by woman. In a world where male channelers exist and are way more dangerous, he only cares about the female channelers. He feels like the inverse of Leandrin to me, except more extreme, if you could believe it, than Leandrin. So far, anyway. Because Leandrin hasn't been shown to just grab random men off the street and accuse them of channeling. Plus, she also claims that they root out those men and women and Aes Sedai who misuse the power. Not just men. Anyone. Okay, speaking of Leandrin, Kate motherfucking Fleetwood. Ladies and gentlemen, she is so good. She owns this scene between her and Nynaeve. In an interview, by the way, that she did with the Dusty Wheel, she answered her questions about the pronunciation of persimmons. I think she says persimmons. She explained that is actually the British pronunciation, which, I mean, that's good to know. Man, what is happening? How is she making me... I hesitate to say like, but... I kinda like Leandrin. Like, I care about her. I want to know her backstory. I bet it's tragic. This scene, when Nynaeve bursts into the room, what happened? Like, why didn't she just walk in with Loyal normally? Did Loyal just walk really, really fast once they got to the, like, hotel or, what do they call it? Tavern? Inn, that's the word in the fantasy books. When they got to the inn, did Loyal just walk really, really fast so she had to run to catch up? I don't know. This time around, I was just like, why didn't she come in? That just seems really, really weird to me. Okay, speaking of Nynaeve, though, the scene between her and Rand, amazing. I'm pretty sure I talked about this before, but I can see in Zoe Robin's acting here, I can see Nynaeve feeling overwhelmed and insecure, and at the same time, I can see her steeling herself to be strong and encouraging for Rand. Zoe Robins is a queen. I did notice this time around, though, that she did not tell Rand that she can channel. Although, if it is known that listening to the wind is a form of channeling, then maybe everybody already knows. I mean, even if they know, though, they won't know that she's as powerful as she is, because she didn't know. Another scene, that I absolutely love, this scene between Moiraine and Leandrin. I want to know their history. Plus, I'm just going to read directly from my notes here. It says, this face touch? Damn. Here we see Moiraine and Alanna talking in Moraine's room. And there's this moment when Alanna mentions that the Amyrlin is returning, and it's so subtle. But watching Moraine's face when Alanna says this, it's gold. It's such a slight reaction. There's a quick deep breath, a quick look away, and then she quickly recovers. But because I know what's coming in the next episode, I'm reading so much into that fraction of a second reaction, and it's gold. It's amazing. I still, however, can't get over the boots on the bed. It was pointed out to me that Alanna has her boots beside the bed, which means that she walked in the room and took them off, but Moiraine just didn't, I guess. I mean, it is her room, so I guess she's allowed, but also, no, she isn't. No boots on the bed. Were you raised in a barn, Moiraine Damodred? I know you weren't, so why are you boots on the bed? But then, okay, Alanna doesn't put her boots on. She just picks them up, and then so, what? Does she walk the halls barefoot? Or does she go outside the door and put them on there? It would be much more natural for her to sit on the edge of the bed and put her boots on. I don't know. I have way too many boot-related concerns here. But okay, moving on from Boots. It's almost like I'm on an episode of The Dusty Wheel. Moving on from Boots, the painting. Okay, so knowing now that opening this painting is basically sending up a bat signal for a magical booty call, it is delightful to me that she does this immediately after learning that her girlfriend is coming back to town. Okay, the funeral scene. Okay, as I mentioned in the previous rewatch video, I still have trouble buying that Lan would be chosen as the representative griever because the show hasn't succeeded in selling me. And I know this is a me thing, right? But they haven't sold me on their friendship. But that having been said, the acting is incredible. I know Daniel Henney is the focus, and he is amazing. But for me, it's Rosamund Pike. And this time around, I was captivated by Zoe Robbins as well. They sell this moment for me. The acting here, it's first rate. What else is interesting to me watching this funeral scene? My closest friend here in Korea, she watched the show just because of me. She wanted to be able to have conversations with me in December. And as I said many times during the 5 weeks that the show was on the air, I was pretty much useless for anything else. I could not think about anything not Wheel of Time related. So she watched the show so that we could have human conversations. The funeral scene in episode 5 was the one that she wanted to talk about the most because it really amazed her. As a Korean, she was blown away by how much this scene mirrors Korean traditional funeral practices. Now, apparently not modern funerals, but traditional funerals. She talked about, first of all, white being the color of mourning. That's the traditional Korean color. Again, not modern funerals. I've seen them mostly in black these days, but in tradition, it was white. The one person, like what Lan was in this moment, being called upon to be an outlet for grief, that comes from Korean traditional funerals. Apparently even the beating of the chest and the singing, she showed it to me. Like she said, it would normally be a man, but a very deep singing. It's not quite throat singing, but there is a deep singing and a beating of the chest. Apparently all of this is from Korean traditional funeral rites. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of my notes. For those of you who are rewatching, have you picked up anything new watching this particular episode again? Has your original opinion changed at all? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like my channel and want to support me, please consider checking out my Patreon. My patrons, y'all are amazing. And I have it on good report that all of my patrons always treat people in the service industry with respect and kindness because y'all are just awesome, and I am so grateful for all of you, really, really and truly. And with that, I will end this here. So please like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!